Welcome to an Alternate Hue. I'm Hugh Anderson, and this is what caught my attention recently. So I'm not quite sure if the last year's worth of rising interest rates have had much of an effect on the average home buyer. What say you? It appears that a lot of people just aren't quite interested in buying houses at this level of mortgage rates. The chronically bullish crowd among us has also insisted that inflation has peaked and is coming down, and the Fed will soon reverse their evil ways and start lowering interest rates. But if you take a look at this chart, you just might have a different opinion. And you might need a magnifying glass to see how far inflation has fallen from the peak. But the worst news, though, is that the more fortunate among us are beginning to also feel the pain. Take a look at how the let-em-eat-cake crowd is faring. Even luxury goods consumption is falling. I weep. And what would an episode of an Alternate Hue be without me lamenting our so-called leaders in Washington, D.C. spending money we don't have? Yep. And that's not even counting the $1.7 trillion bill that, as of right now, is waiting to be passed in the House so they can all go home for Christmas. Wonderful. U.S. scientists have performed the world's first controlled nuclear fusion reaction. I want you to have some good news. Scientists have spent decades studying how to replicate in labs the nuclear fusion reactions that power the sun and stars. The fission reactions that power today's nuclear plants involve splitting atoms and result in radioactive waste. Fusion entails combining atoms and theoretically could provide abundant clean energy with no hazardous waste. Hydrogen, fusion's input, is the most abundant element in the universe, and no country dominates its supply, unlike some minerals used in lithium-ion batteries and wind turbines. The reactions also don't generate CO2. But a stumbling block has long been figuring out how to generate more energy from the fusion reaction than is used to ignite them. So what the experiment proved is that scientists can recreate the physical reactions in stars, but scaling the technology and making it commercially viable by most scientists' account will likely take another few decades. It's also important to distinguish between basic and applied research. Government's proper role is to fund basic research of the sort that produced Tuesday's breakthrough and which businesses have little incentive to do. Private companies, on the other hand, do a far better job of taking discoveries out of the lab to the market. A bipartisan complaint is that the U.S. spends too little on research and development, which has the country trailing China. That's not true. U.S. businesses in 2019 spent nearly 8 times more on R&D than the federal government. The U.S. spent a third more as a share of GDP on R&D than China. And now finally, let's talk about that old stock market, shall we? We've had a very challenging investment environment in 2022, and most of us are ready to return to our winning ways. But, isn't there always a but? According to noted market technician Carter Worth, not so fast. Take a look. As you can see from this chart, if history should repeat, or at least rhyme, we could be in for a long slog before we return to a persisting rising stock market. Does that mean we pull out of the market and stuff everything in the proverbial mattress? Absolutely not. But we're going to recover that the next time. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if not, send it to someone you don't like. I'm Hugh Anderson, and this has been an Alternate Hue.